So can we start? Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. So I request everyone, during the this webinar, please mute your microphone for the clear flow of the session, and please turn off your camera. And if you want to ask any query, kindly put it in the chat box. And it is advisable to be very polite and humble at the time of interaction. I, Manju Chiller, welcome and congratulate you all on being the fortunate of this very informative webinar. So, without wasting the time, let's start this most interesting session where we will be getting an amazing experience to get to know about the journey of global educators who have been selected for the prestigious Global Teacher Award. Now, as you all know, that time to on every Saturday, we invite one global educators, and we had already interacted with Jeff from USA, Scott from Canada, Carolina from Argentina, Eva from Mexico, Lei Julek from USA. Our previous sessions were indeed very pleasant and informative. We wholeheartedly thank our guest speakers. And today we have very special guest with us, Michael Dunley from New Jersey, USA. I welcome you, sir, and we are eagerly looking forward to listen to your unique teaching ways. I request everyone, please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. So today we have, dear participants, please mute yourself. So let me brief you all the agenda of this session. Introduction of the session would take 3 minutes. The guest speaker, Mr. Michael Dunley, PPT for 15 minutes. After that, 10 minutes are for question and answers round. So you all can write your questions in the chat window. And the last 2 minutes are for the conclusion. As you all know, Connect, Share and Learn with Global Teachers is a weekly webinar where we get the opportunity to interact with top 50 global educators. Now, I would like to welcome our special guest, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Rathod. He is an education officer of Solapur district. Welcome you, sir. Now, let me introduce myself. I'm Manju Chiller. I'm a Microsoft certified educator and currently associated with Sun City School, Gurgaon, New Delhi. I'm an ICT educator. Our co-host, Ranjit sir, he is a master trainer, Skype master teacher and top 50 finalist of Global Teacher Award. I thank you, Ranjit sir, for taking this initiative and making this global connection possible. And I'm pretty much sure that all the educators always eagerly wait for this session. And here, once again, I welcome our special guest speaker, Michael Dunley. Thank you so much, Michael, for connecting with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and good evening to everyone who's on the call. A special thanks.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much. I feel very honored to be here amongst all of you. I will go ahead and share my screen so as we can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Did you want to finish this?
Yeah. So okay. Michael Dunley began his career at the age of 37. He is a teacher who believes in making students feel valued, become empowered, and live extraordinary lives. He received the Presidential Award of Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, and he is a National Board Certified in Early Childhood. Michael has served as an advisor to the New Jersey Department of Education on several councils and committees. He is an active member of his union. He is one of the New Jersey Education Association State Election Committee member and serves as an NGA state delegate to the any representative assembly. Here, we are starting our session. I request everyone again, please keep your microphones off during the sessions and the cameras so that we'll not face any trouble in between the session. And I request Michael, please share your screen. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for having me here today. I am honored to be amongst all of you, and I hope that what you'll find I have to share today will be of great use for you in your classrooms with your students. And Ranjitol asked me to present on what and why I was recognized and selected as a Global Teacher of the Year finalist. I really focused on reducing the anxiety of my students with social emotional learning. So that'll be the focus of what I'll share with you, my practices. A little bit about where I teach. It's called a town in New Jersey called Tabernacle. It's a very small and rural district. We only have 776 students, but we run from preschool up to 8th grade. But the town's got about 7,000 residents. We are located about 45 minutes exactly east of Philadelphia and about 90 minutes southwest of New York City. So we're in an incredibly populated and diverse area, but it's in a very, more than half the state is just open farmlands and an area called the Pine Barrens. This is a picture of the school where I work. This is a K-4 school. We are surrounded by cranberry bogs and cranberry farmers. Cranberries are one of the, New Jersey is one of the top world's producers for cranberries. A lot of my students' families are cranberry producing families. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my students before I get into why I think this is a very big problem with our current education. This is my 17th year of teaching. In my introduction, you heard that I didn't start teaching till I was 37. And that is because I had a full career in restaurant and hotel management. And I was in that industry for 25 years. It wasn't until I became married and had children that I discovered that I loved working with children and pursued a second career as a teacher, starting teaching at age 37. I was immediately put into an assignment where in the United States, we have special education students who are identified as having learning differences. Previously, that would have been called learning disabilities, but now we refer to them as learning differences. And having worked with inclusion students at an early age, I've taught preschool, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, and I'm currently in 3rd grade. But for the bulk of my time, I taught 2nd graders who are age 7, 8 years old. And at that point, so many of them had been struggling in learning how to read that they had developed a lot of anxiety and fear towards school and towards learning, with a constant pattern of failure, and it created a lot of anxiety among them. Here's a picture of me with a lot of my students. You can see the diversity at my old school. So the problem that I really come up with is anxiety, and I'm not sure if it's something that you see in your students, but one of the things that I like about this topic is that it doesn't matter if you teach early childhood or if you're teaching children in the middle school years or in the secondary. It really runs the gamut through all the ages, even the adults. In the United States, we've seen over the last 17 years of my teaching a real spike in students suffering from anxiety and depression. It's not limited to any one particular grade band or area. These in college students, we've seen a sharp rise in anxiety and depression, as well as the high school students. But it comes all the way down to the earlier years in the primary level. What we know about the brain and how it works and all the brain-based research that has happened, we know that fear and anxiety can truly shut down the brain and prevent it from being able to acquire new information and to learn. Also, students during assessment times will also experience high levels of fear and anxiety that will prevent them from being able to show back to an educator what they've learned or what they can do. So based on all of this, I've developed and I've embraced a newer way of teaching that has helped my struggling students find the comfort and the support to be able to learn more deeply, and then be able to retain it longer and to perform better on all sorts of measurements and assessments. So by embracing the social emotional learning, I will be able to share this presentation with our hosts, and they can share it out and it has links to various different articles. In this one, we have the basis for what social emotional learning is. And it's really broken up into those 5 areas of self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision, relationship skills, and one of the ones that's so important for my students is the social awareness. And then, of course, you have these outer rings. If you notice, the classroom is one of the first realms of area that we have an area to be able to impact. Beyond that, you have your school and then home and community. And what I've done over the last, I'd say 5 years, that's really changed the path of my teaching is I've added a 4th ring, and that would be the globe or the world. Being able to connect with other educators and students around the world is another powerful way in which we can bring that in. So what I've done, classrooms should be designed as amazing places for students. Here are 2 of my classrooms from the past when I've worked in 2 different districts. And you can see that the space is open, it's inviting, it creates pockets for areas for students to collaborate and gather. The second picture is where I currently work, and a lot of my philosophy is embedded in the design of this room, where it's created to be more like a living room space as opposed to a traditional classroom. The more comfortable a student is, the more they feel at home, the more open to learning and taking risks in their academic adventures. But more than that, this past year, 2 years now, I've been having the students come in on the first day of school. They sit down. The room is not set up and ready for them. They design it themselves. They will map out a floor plan, and the only direction I give them is that they want to create a sense of community, and we discuss what that means and what it should be, and then they plan and set up and create the learning space that we will then occupy for 180 days of learning. You probably have heard the expression flexible seating. I'm sure that you are aware of it. It means that children can move about the room. They can choose where they want to be. There's lots of options, from beanbags, sitting on the floor, wobble chairs, rocking chairs. I brought in some patio furniture from my home, and then the traditional desk and chair. This is a brief video that will show you what is actually happening in this video is my students are taking a math test. This is a math assessment looks like in my room. I sit in the corner and I have what is called office hours. And for students who need a question read to them or some additional explaining, they'll come over and talk to me. Whoop. Let me see if I can get back and play the video. In the background, you see a fireplace is being projected onto the screen. There's soft music playing. And the research really supports that when children are comfortable and relaxed, they're able to spend more attention, more effort, and the fear and the anxiety of getting something wrong is not impeding their ability to learn or to be assessed. I've seen skills go way higher among students who have traditionally struggled when they're been given this environment to work in or be tested in. I also use student voice to help allow them to have a say in the classroom, student-centered learning. My students are with me for 900 hours a year. And with 24 students, that's 21,600 hours of students watching what I do. I ask them questions like this class is a happy place for me, and they have to agree with that or disagree with that. I like the things we are learning in this class. I like the way my teacher treats me when I need help. All of these things go to that culture and the climate of the classroom. I was able to take 2 years worth of data where the questions you want green are yeses, and where you want red, you would want no. And I was able to pinpoint an area that I could actually make the classroom better for them. By changing what I do, I'm creating a space for my students with research to back it up. Another thing that I use for my students to help them embrace learning and have a lower level of anxiety is to allow them to choose what they want to learn. So we do genius projects, student-directed learning. These are voluntary. They're not forced to do it. They can choose what they want to learn about. They can choose how they want to present it. They can invite guests to the presentation, or they can just create the presentation but not deliver it if they have any anxiety about public speaking. But what happens is they see 1 or 2 students get up and do it, and they start to become jealous. They want to get up there and do it themselves. These are some examples of previous students of mine who have done incredible work with these self-directed learning. I get out of the way and they honestly exceed all expectations. They do family trees. This child over here did a simulated cooking show where he pretended he was cooking in a box and pulled out the brownies that were already made. This is one of those incredible STEM lessons that takes math, science, language, arts, all into one actual project, and he did it all on his own. So these children are actually going into college right now, and they've all been accepted to colleges. All 4 of the ones that are presented here are on their way to college next year. I'm only going to show you a brief portion of this where I want you to hear one of my students talking. He's 7 years old. He's going to the University of Alabama next year.
Thomas Jefferson went to the College of William and Mary. Thomas Jefferson became a lawyer. Thomas Jefferson did lots of famous things, like the Declaration of Independence, found the University of Virginia, and be our 3rd president.
So these children are able to go and do learning in ways that I would have never predicted was possible. These are children who struggle with anxiety, who have had a difficult time learning. Another thing that is incredibly helpful is the social inventory. All of these ideas I have to also give credit for. They've all been taken from other educators. I've invented none of these things. What I've done is I've seen what other good educators are doing, and I've taken it and replicated it. Social inventory is another excellent tool where you ask the students to simply write down 3 names of children they want to work with or be partnered with. It's anonymous. They can't talk to one another. I collect them, and I'm able to track and see who's being chosen and who isn't being selected. So when I see that this child here was a first pick, a second pick, and a third pick, but no one is choosing this child. So I can start to identify those children that really need to be targeted to help them create social connections within the classroom. Because right now, the other children aren't selecting them to work with. There might be something about their personality that I could help them work with in order to make them more appealing to their fellow classmates. But this way they become more connected. So with the engagement, you have the flexible seating, you have the student choice in enrichment activities. I allow them to choose what they would like to read. I also differentiate because of the population and opportunities to lead. One of the big transitions has been converting this type of learning into the COVID-19 post world, having to use virtual platforms, inviting family members to come in and present to my students in order to invite the family to become part of it. Tools that I've used to help manage the community that I'm creating is Skype, Flipgrid, Google Classroom, ClassDojo. I use Google Forms to create lessons that are interactive, and I call my students, I text them, and I email the parents regularly. Empatico is a great free platform that I'm able to use where you are partnered with a class. It takes 3 minutes to sign up, and you are partnered with a class all around the world. We were partnered with a class in Memphis, and students are able to collaborate and work together to solve real world problems. Again, these are all going back to that social emotional learning. We have pen pals. My students are all white. The class that we were partnered with has all students who are Black, all students who are African American. This was a great way to bring us together. We were featured on the NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt for the work that we're doing with our students.
In the same city where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, these Memphis second graders are keeping his legacy alive.
I have a dream that one day
all people will have equal rights, that people will be joyful, that there will be peace and love, not hate.
More than 1,000 miles north, these New Jersey students are learning the same lessons.
I, Easton, have a dream that everyone will be friends, that everyone can be treated fairly.
Big dreams for these little kids. Thanks to a free video program, these schools, both in highly segregated communities, are working together. What do you see that you have in common with the kids here in Memphis?
We're both people and we need to be treated the same.
Teachers in both schools collaborating almost every day on projects that build racial understanding.
When I heard them talk about their dreams, they're my dreams too.
We don't just label them for the color of their skin.
And they don't label you that way either.
At this tender age, color doesn't divide them.
In my adult mind, the word color is so much more complicated. In a 7 or 8 year old's mind, it's about their favorite crayon.
Decades ago, Dr. King led a movement. Now these kids are part of it.
We shall overcome.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Memphis.
So my students are part of solutions. They're staying connected using virtual platforms. We've used design thinking to start with empathy and create problem solutions for real world problems. We've embraced global learning as another method by which we can feel connected to the world and develop relationships with teachers and students. We've participated in global learning projects like the Climate Action Project. We've been able to Skype with over 15 countries and at least 10 different states here in the United States to build those relationships, to feel connected. And we've brought music into the classroom as well. All of these things help us create a warm, inviting environment where students want to come in each day and learn. Happy students obviously learn better. The research has proven that. And what I've been able to do is to help them connect with each other, with the teacher, and with the world. Like us, like teachers, I think they need to belong. They need to feel that they belong in order to feel safe, in order to open up to learning. So I'd like to just thank you for having me today. I hope some of what I've shared will be of some use to anyone. I have a lot of resources, but it's quite simple when you start to just put the student in the center and see things through their eyes and create an environment they want to come to every day. And that ends the presentation.